Well, last week, of course, if you were with us, you were not hearing us because July 4th, we had the day off. Randy Staples, though, was still working and uh, publishing putting together the Idaho Weekly Briefing and his weekly columns and the like. But we had a day off, so to speak, as far as chatting with Randy. So we've got a lot of catching up to do today. It's 8:44:55. Bill Colley with you as well this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, newsradio1310.com. This is Top Story. And Randy, after a 2-week hiatus, welcome back.
Good to be here.
We were just chatting off air. Ann Coulter. Now, I don't. She may have some ties with some people inside the Trump campaign. I'm sure she does. But she said the other day that Mike Crapo was maybe not on the short list, but on the list nonetheless as potential VP candidates for Donald Trump. And you were speculating about this, I noticed in the column yesterday, and I read it as well and thought that really does seem like a long shot. And it sounds very much like the Trump camp is just trying to obfuscate and for reasons obviously maybe known only to the candidate. But why would that name come up?
But the only reason that I can think of really is that that he's a fairly unknown. He's a loyal Republican. Nobody would really argue that. He's been a loyal Republican caucus member ever since he's been in Congress since '93. That's there's no real question about that. He's nationally, he's, to the extent that he's known at all, he's not controversial particularly. There's no particular downsides in those regards. He's been in Congress for quite a while, so you could not argue that he's inexperienced. But there are all kinds of reasons why it wouldn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense. I'm not really sure who he would bring in. The very fact that he has been as loyal a Republican to the general doctrine, the party's platform, the Senate Republicans' positions over the years creates some problems because Trump is not is not particularly loyal to all of those things. It would automatically set up a series of issues and potential conflicts. But then I have a hard time imagining why Mike Crapo would be very interested in wanting to take us a job like that or do that sort of thing. It would create an issue with him being on the ballot for re-election to the Senate this year in a race that it's hard to imagine how he wouldn't win it. So it's a little hard to see what the real benefits or likelihood would be on either side that either Trump would make the offer or that he would accept it.
And again, from what I understand, Crapo's opponent in this year's election, out of all of the three candidates running in the congressional delegation for re-election this year, he may have the strongest opponent. I don't think that the Idaho Republican Party would be pleased by this.
Yeah, I would imagine not. And he probably does have the strongest opponent of the three, and one who was quick enough on the draw to pick up on this right away and draw some attention to the idea of linking Trump and Crapo, which you will see, I'm sure, all over the country. A lot of Democrats particularly in a lot of specific areas, especially where Trump is not individually terribly popular, to link local candidates with Trump. And of course, Idaho is one of the states that Trump did not win in the primary election. There's a lot of concern about him, and while Crapo has done nothing himself to link himself to it, it shows at least a certain amount of quickness and capability to pick up on that linkage where it does occur in some other quarters.
Now, on the other side of the political spectrum, there is a potential for an Oregon choice for Hillary Clinton, and it's not Ron Wyden. That caught me by surprise. But you wrote about this yesterday, and there's a fellow in Oregon who's got a very lengthy political resume and has worked for Republicans as well. Could be the dark horse candidate for the Democrats as a VP nominee. nominee.
Well, it would be very much a dark horse. He's not on any of the short lists that have gotten out into the media so far. It would surprise me really if it wound up being the Oregon senator that I mentioned, Jeff Merkley. Just for that reason, usually the names that do get circulated on short list are usually those that you do wind up seeing. Still, it seemed to me that he would make a good deal of sense. He's a second-term senator. Had a good deal of background in state government as well. Was Speaker of the House in Oregon. He was the only senator who supported Bernie Sanders, and it would he selection of him by Hillary Clinton would certainly bring along a lot of Bernie people who were kind of wavering one way or another. And he has some interesting elements to his background, some that are a little bit better known, and some that are not terribly well known, and really not much by way of negatives that you could go after by way of something that people who are, say, politically centrist might have a lot of trouble with. I thought that of all the politicians in the Northwest at this point, that he would probably be the one that for either party would probably make the most sense.
Everyone's trying to avoid a repeat of an Eagleton, and you look for a candidate out there who's not going to have any skeletons or any other issues, and oftentimes, you find people that are unknown, but that's because they can come to the game, and there's not going to be any distractions.
Yeah, that's one thing. You do have to be careful that you vetted them well enough, as in the Eagleton case. People may have forgotten in the '72 presidential campaign, George McGovern initially asked to have nominated Thomas Eagleton, Missouri senator, and then it turned out that he'd had various problems with mental health issues over the years, and that created some problems for the race. And Eagleton was dropped from the ticket later on. You can never be entirely sure that there isn't something in somebody's background that may not cause a problem here or there. But generally, people who have been around long enough have been high enough in the public eye for enough years will have had the kind of exposure that will, in this day and age, likely guarantee that there isn't something enormous that's lurking there.
Time is coming up on 8:52, 55 right now. Randy Staples from Idaho Weekly Briefing is our guest. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. And Randy, the website address for people who are listening.
It is www.ridenbaugh.com. That's RIDENBAUGH.
One of the more amusing things, and probably not amusing for people who might get scammed with this, but that I was reading about because it's such an unusual twist with how these things work. Attorney General Lawrence Wasden warning about a scam that essentially involves Attorney General Lawrence Wasden. What's up with that?
That's yeah, it's a little bit ironic because the Attorney General's office is often a place that from which you'll get warnings about scams that are showing up and that people ought to be alerted to, and the Attorney General's office, Lawrence Wasden's office, has issued plenty of those as they do in other states over the years. This one is a little bit different. It's warning business owners to be aware of emails that are sent out by scammers who are saying that they're from his office and saying that a complaint has been filed against them, and basically there's a computer virus involved, and it could be hazardous if you open up the materials that are in the email. So something to just watch for and be aware of, and be careful with your emails, obviously.
You also have some detailed, in fact, the cover picture this week is some efforts there's a lot of studies going on right now about grizzly bears, especially in eastern Idaho. We're looking at, I guess, health and population and the like. A lot of discussion about whether the grizzly is going to be an endangered species or not, or how they've recovered and the like, and a great deal of interest in eastern Idaho in all of this.
As indeed there should be. There are a bunch of rule proposals, 7 rule proposals that are coming up at this point, and so this is really kind of a timely point for people to gather what information there is about the actual status of the grizzlies, how many there are, where they're located, what their health is, uh, so on and so forth, and get some discussion about that. There should be a good deal of public discussion about all of this, and given how much people do like to talk about grizzlies, I kind of imagine there will be.
I had a friend who just was vacationing last week in the hills of Pennsylvania, and at their camp, somebody inadvertently left out a watermelon, and they got photographs of a small black bear that came by and was actually eating the watermelon. And I'm reminded of something somebody from Fish and Game told me one time in Idaho. They said black bear, aren't generally too dangerous, but they said grizzly bears, on the other hand, would be the only game out there that would hunt you back.
That's not a bad way of putting it. You certainly want to keep as much distance as you possibly can from grizzlies.
It's 8:55. Randy Staple is joining us from Idaho Weekly Briefing. I made a quick note on this wildfires because you do a weekly update on this during the summer. I have to say I think only one day so far this summer I've walked outside and had that smell, because sometimes in the distance you can still pick up the smell of a burn somewhere way down the highway, obviously. But it's relatively been somewhat of a mild year so far, hasn't it?
It really has. Idaho's been pretty fortunate so far. This last week we started to see a few more fires, and Boise there was some real attention there. Got the city's attention when there was a major fire up in the foothills that was set off by fireworks that somebody had set up in the dry brush. Uh, so in some places there's been a little bit of attention to it, but compare it to this point last year, and it's really pretty low key. In fact, the West overall is not on fire the way we were accustomed to thinking about it most of the last few years. Particularly last year, it was a lot heavier than it is this year. Uh, this is so far we're getting off to a pretty good start. Part of that may be that we had a little bit better, a little bit more moist winter. The snowpack was a little bit better. That may help ease that back. The whole area is not quite so dry and ready to just go up in flames at the first spark that hits it. But fingers crossed. Maybe we can get through this year without any really major ones. Here's hoping so. We're about to head now into the couple of months or so when it traditionally becomes heaviest, and we'll see what happens to fires then.
We had some rain here last night, but not. I mean, in the last few weeks, we haven't seen a lot of precipitation, and my guess is things are going to, if they continue this way, be very dry when we get into August.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true. I think that's right.
Randy, very quickly again, before we wrap up, for people who'd like to take a look at the briefing, where would you send them?
I would send them to www.ridenbaugh.com. That's RIDENBAUGH.
And maybe next week we'll be able to talk about a few surprises politically. But
we should have some vice presidential nominees coming up before very long, among other things.
We look forward to it. Hey, we'll talk next Monday morning.
Okay.
Randy Staple is joining us today from Idaho Weekly Briefing. Spends a few minutes with us on Monday mornings on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We have news coming up in one more hour of Top Story with Bill Colley. Hey, do want to remind you about our friend Dr. Eric F. Jones, who is using a holistic systemic approach to wellness. He has a couple of different offices just near our studios. He's been doing this for nearly 25 years. He's got master's and doctoral degrees in marriage and family therapy. He uses methods of alternative healing, naturopathy, medicinal herbs, nutrition, sound waves, intellectual and cognitive self-regulation, and napathy to help remedy and manage mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual challenges. He's currently accepting new patients with evening and Saturday appointments available, 731-7178, and he's on Facebook, Eric F. Jones, Ph.D., mental health and wellness therapist.